Give God your life and He will protect it. We spend so much of our time carrying burdens we were never meant to hold, worrying about what's next, replaying what's behind us, trying to control every outcome like it all depends on us. And in doing that, we end up exhausted, anxious, and fearful. But when you hand your life over to God, you're not giving up control. You're giving it to the only one who can actually handle it. Think about it. The same God who created the stars, who knows every detail of your life, who's never once been surprised, He's offering to carry what you can't. And His protection doesn't always mean the absence of storms. Sometimes it means He walks you through them without letting them break you. Sometimes it means He closes doors you thought you needed, because He knows what's on the other side. You can live tight-fisted, trying to protect your own life, or you can live open-handed, knowing the one who holds it is stronger, wiser, and far more loving than you could ever imagine. And when you do that, peace shows up where fear used to live. Strength shows up where doubt used to sit. So let go. Give God your life, all of it, the good, the messy, the uncertain, and watch Him protect it in ways you couldn't have planned, but in ways you'll be forever grateful for. We live in a world that constantly tells us, take control, make it happen, don't let go. And while there's truth in working hard, setting goals, and being responsible, many of us take that idea way too far. We try to control everything, our future, other people's choices, the outcome of every situation. We carry the weight of things that were never meant to sit on our shoulders. The problem is, the more we grip life with tight fists, the more anxious we become. Because deep down, we know we can't actually control everything. You can't control how people treat you. You can't control the economy. You can't control tomorrow's circumstances. You can't even control what will happen 5 minutes from now. And when life doesn't go the way you planned, that illusion of control crumbles and leaves you frustrated, fearful, and exhausted. That's where releasing control comes in. Not giving up, not being careless, not sitting back and doing nothing, but releasing control into God's hands. When you hand Him your life, you're not throwing it into chaos. You're placing it into the safest hands possible. The hands that designed you, that know your future, and that care for you more than you can imagine. Think of it like this: you're holding a heavy backpack stuffed with worries, plans, and what-ifs. Every step you take gets harder because you're trying to carry everything yourself. God's saying, let me carry it. I'm stronger. I see farther. I know what's coming, and I can handle it. But many of us keep gripping the straps tighter because it feels scary to let go. We think, if I don't control it, who will? And the answer is, the one who already has it under control. Releasing control doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy or predictable. Storms will still come. But it does mean you don't have to panic every time the clouds roll in. You'll know that God is steering even when you can't see the map, and that knowledge gives peace in the middle of chaos. It also changes how you approach your daily life. Instead of forcing things to happen, you learn to trust the timing. Instead of obsessing over other people's actions, you pray and release them to God. Instead of fearing the future, you walk in confidence knowing He already holds it. That shift from clinging to controlling to choosing to release frees you from so much stress. Now, releasing control doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice. Every day you'll be tempted to pick those worries back up, to grab that backpack again. But every time you notice yourself doing it, stop and remind yourself, this isn't mine to carry. God, I give it back to you. Little by little, you'll feel the weight lift. And in that space where fear used to live, peace will move in. Here's the truth: you can live your whole life gripping everything tightly, trying to manage every outcome, and you'll still end up disappointed and tired. Or you can open your hands, release control, and trust God to do what only He can do. He doesn't just hold your life, He protects it. So today, take a deep breath. Picture yourself handing Him the backpack. Picture yourself loosening your grip on all the what-ifs. Release control. Because when you do, you'll discover the freedom, strength, and peace that only come when God is the one holding your life. We like to think we're strong, and in some ways, we are. We handle long days, tough conversations, stressful seasons. We push through. We figure things out. But no matter how strong we think we are, life has a way of showing us our limits. The job loss, the diagnosis, the betrayal, the late night thoughts that won't let you sleep. That's when it hits. I can't do this on my own. And that's not weakness. its truth. We weren't designed to carry everything ourselves. Our strength was never meant to be the foundation for our lives. It was meant to point us toward the one whose strength never runs out. Trusting God's strength is about shifting the weight. Instead of leaning on what you can do, you start leaning on what He can do. Because here's the thing, your strength has limits, His doesn't. You get tired, He never does. You run out of answers, He knows the beginning and the end. You hit walls, He makes a way where there seems to be none. Picture this, you're trying to move a car stuck in the mud. You push, you strain, you dig your feet into the ground. You're sweating, gritting your teeth, giving everything you've got, but the car doesn't budge. Then someone pulls up in a truck with a towel rope. They hook it up, hit the gas, and in seconds the car is out. That's the difference between your strength and God's. You can wear yourself out trying, or you can let Him do what only He can do. Trusting God's strength doesn't mean you stop working or stop showing up. It means you stop trying to be God in your own life. You stop acting like it all depends on you. You still give your best, but you also rest in the fact that He's carrying what you can't. And that trust brings a peace no amount of self-effort can buy. It also changes how you face fear. When you believe it's all on you, fear grows loud. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if I can't hold it all together? But when you trust His strength, those questions lose their power. Because the truth is, you aren't enough on your own. But with Him, you don't have to be. His power fills the gaps. His strength covers your weakness. Paul in the Bible said it like this, "When I am weak, then I am strong." That sounds backwards until you realize what he's saying. When you hit the end of your strength, that's where God's strength kicks in. And it's stronger, steadier, and more reliable than anything you could bring to the table. Here's the hard part. Trusting God's strength requires humility. It means admitting you can't do it all. That's tough in a world that praises self-sufficiency and grind until you make it. But humility isn't defeat. It's wisdom. It's choosing to stand on a foundation that won't crack when the pressure comes. So ask yourself, what are you still trying to hold up on your own? What situations are you straining under, hoping your effort will be enough? Maybe it's time to stop fighting in your own strength and start trusting His. Because the moment you do, you'll find relief, you'll find rest, and you'll find out that God's strength was holding you up all along. Here's the truth: life will knock you down. Your strength will give out. But God's strength won't. And when you trust it, you'll find that the battles that once crushed you no longer have the same power, because you're no longer fighting them alone. When most of us hear the word protection, we picture safety, no problems, no storms, no hard days. If God is protecting me, then life should be smooth, right? That's how we think. But the truth is, God's protection doesn't always look like a bubble around you. Sometimes it looks like strength inside you. Think about it. If protection only meant nothing bad ever happened, then every single challenge in your life would mean God left you. But you and I both know that's not true. You've walked through things you never thought you'd survive, yet here you are. That's not the absence of God's protection. That's proof of it. God's protection isn't about keeping you from every storm. It's about making sure the storm doesn't destroy you. It's about walking with you through the valley, not just lifting you over it. It's about building you, shaping you, and shielding you in ways you may not even notice in the moment. Think of a parent teaching their child to ride a bike. Protection doesn't mean holding the bike forever, so the child never falls. Protection means running alongside, letting them wobble, maybe even fall once or twice, but never letting them crash beyond recovery. That's how God works. He doesn't promise you'll never scrape your knees, but He promises you'll never fall beyond His reach. Sometimes God's protection is closing doors you wanted to walk through. You call it rejection, He calls it redirection. Sometimes His protection is letting something fail before it breaks you worse down the road. Sometimes it's placing people in your life to warn you, guide you, or stand with you in the fire. Here's the thing: protection doesn't always feel good in real time. It's hard to call it protection when you're in pain. But later, when you look back, you'll see it. You'll realize the breakup that shattered you actually saved you. The job you didn't get open space for something better. The no that hurt was really a not yet that kept you safe. That's why redefining protection matters. If you only see God's protection as comfort, you'll miss the bigger picture. His protection is about your growth, your future, and your soul, not just your present comfort. He sees dangers you don't see. He knows battles you can't fight yet. And he's not just protecting you from the outside world, he's often protecting you from yourself, from rushing into things, from trusting the wrong people, from chasing things that look good but aren't good for you. Here's what happens when you shift your definition. You stop panicking every time something hard shows up. You stop assuming God forgot you when life gets messy. Instead, you start looking for his hand in the middle of it. You start asking, what is God protecting me from or preparing me for in this moment? And that question brings peace, even in the chaos. So the next time life doesn't go the way you planned, don't immediately assume you're unprotected. Pause. Remember that his version of protection is bigger than your version of comfort. Trust that even if the storm is raging, the one in the boat with you won't let it sink. Because true protection isn't about avoiding battles. It's about making sure you come out standing on the other side, stronger, wiser, and more anchored in him than you were before. That's the kind of protection only God gives. We don't like closed doors. We see them as rejection, failure, missed opportunities. A relationship that ended, a job you didn't get, a plan that fell apart. Our first reaction is almost always frustration. Why didn't this work out? Why didn't God let this happen? But here's the truth. Sometimes the very thing you see as a closed door is God's greatest protection. We often chase what looks good without knowing what's behind it. A shiny opportunity, a person we thought was the one, a plan that felt perfect on paper. We knock, we push, we even try to kick the door down. But God sees what's on the other side. He knows if it's a path that would harm you, distract you, or pull you away from what's best. So when he closes a door, it's not rejection, it's redirection. Think about a GPS. You're driving toward your destination and suddenly it reroutes you. At first, you're annoyed. Why is this thing changing my path? But what you don't see is the accident up ahead, the road that's blocked, or the turn that would have taken you miles out of the way. That reroute wasn't to frustrate you. It was to protect you and keep you on track. That's what God does with closed doors. Sometimes the hardest part is that closed doors rarely come with explanations. God doesn't always tell us why he's saying no. And that's where trust comes in. Because if you only trust him when you understand, you're not really trusting, you're just agreeing. Real trust means believing his no is just as loving as his yes. And here's the beautiful thing. Every closed door makes room for the right one to open. Think back on your life. How many times did something not work out only for you to later realize it was the best thing that could have happened? The breakup that cleared the way for a healthier relationship. The missed job that opened the door to a career you love. The plan that fell apart, which forced you onto a path you never would have chosen, but now you wouldn't trade it for anything. That's the pattern. God closes doors not to punish you, but to protect you and prepare you. But if you keep staring at the door that's shut, you'll miss the one he's trying to open. That's why acceptance matters. Accepting closed doors doesn't mean you stop dreaming or trying. It means you trust that if it didn't open, it wasn't meant to, at least not now. It also frees you from bitterness. Instead of resenting the rejection, you can release it and move forward. Instead of wasting time on what if, you can focus on what's next. And in that space, God does his best work. Here's the truth. Every closed door is either protecting you from something you don't see or preparing you for something you're not ready for yet. Sometimes both. So the next time a door shuts in your face, don't let it break your faith. Let it build it. Say to yourself, if God closed it, he must have something better ahead, because he always does. We live in a world that teaches us to hold on tight. Hold on to your money. Hold on to your time. Hold on to your plans. Hold on to people. We cling so hard to what we have because we're afraid of losing it. And the problem is when we grip life tightly, we end up exhausted, anxious, and constantly afraid something will slip through our fingers. Living open-handed is the opposite. It's a mindset. It's a choice. It means you're willing to release the need to control every outcome. It means you trust God enough to let go of the things you think you need to hold on to. When you live open-handed, you give freely, your time, your love, your energy, your plans, without fear of running out. And here's the incredible truth. When you give it all to God, he never lets you go empty-handed. Think of it like holding water in your hands. Clench your fists too tightly and the water slips through. But open your hands, let it rest gently in your palms, and suddenly it's secure, safe, and you can hold more than you ever imagined. That's what God wants for your life. He wants you to hold lightly, trusting Him to fill your life in ways you can't control or predict. Living open-handed also transforms the way you deal with fear. When you clutch life tightly, fear dominates. What if I lose this? What if I fail? What if people leave? But when you live open-handed, fear loses its grip. You start trusting that God's got your back, that He's in control, and that whatever you release into His hands is safe. Your peace no longer depends on circumstances. It depends on Him. It applies to more than just material things. Living open-handed changes relationships too. You stop trying to manipulate people, force connections, or control outcomes. You give people the space to be who they are while trusting God to guide your heart. You stop clinging to resentment or grudges because you realize holding on to anger only weighs you down. You let it go, and in its place, God brings freedom. And it changes your vision of success. When you live open-handed, success isn't measured by what you control, own, or achieve. Success is measured by how much you trust God to work through your life, by how much love, generosity, and faith you put out into the world. You learn that giving freely doesn't deplete you, it expands you. Of course, living open-handed isn't easy. Every day, life will tempt you to grip tighter, fear, doubt, disappointment, pressure. But every time you feel the pull to hold on, you can remind yourself, I belong to God, and my life is safe in His hands. Open-handed living is a daily choice, a daily surrender. But the more you practice it, the more peace, joy, and freedom you experience. Here's the bottom line: you cannot hold tightly to life and fully experience God's protection, provision, or love. You can only experience it when you open your hands, release your grip, and trust Him to fill what's empty, guide what's uncertain, and guard what's precious. So today, loosen your grip, release your fear, your need to control, and your constant worry about what's next. Live open-handed, give freely, love fully, trust completely. Because the moment you do, you'll realize what you thought you were holding on to is safer than you ever imagined, and God is the one holding it all. Surrender fully. It's a phrase that sounds simple, but in reality, it's one of the hardest things we'll ever do. We're trained to fight, to resist, to try to handle life on our own. We clutch our plans, our dreams, our relationships, our fears, and we think if we just hold on tight enough, we can control everything. But here's the truth: the tighter you hold, the heavier life becomes, and the more you limit God's ability to work in your life. Surrender isn't about giving up, it's about giving over. It's about saying, God, this life, this situation, this heart, it's yours. Do with it what you will. It's a choice to trust Him completely, even when you don't understand, even when the road ahead looks uncertain, even when letting go feels scary. That's what it means to surrender fully. Think about a kite. You could grip the string so tightly that it never soars. It'll stay close, safe, but it will never rise. Or you could hold the string with relaxed hands, trusting the wind to lift it. Suddenly, it's flying higher than you ever imagined. Surrender is that relaxed grip. It doesn't mean the kite is out of control. It means it's experiencing its full potential. And that's exactly what God wants for your life. Surrender fully also means giving Him the messy parts of your life, the parts you're ashamed of, the parts you can't fix, the parts that keep you awake at night. God doesn't just want your good days. He wants your full life, your fears, your doubts, your past mistakes, your broken dreams. He wants them all. Because He can turn every shattered piece into something whole, every failure into a lesson, every pain into purpose. But He can't do that if you're holding back. One of the hardest parts of surrender is trust. Because surrendering fully requires believing that God's plan is better than yours, even when it doesn't make sense, even when the timing feels wrong, even when the answer isn't what you prayed for. But here's the promise: when you surrender fully, you don't surrender to nothing. You surrender to the one who holds the universe, who knows your heart, and who will never fail you. Surrender is also freedom. The moment you release your grip, you stop carrying the weight of what ifs, should haves, and I can'ts. You stop trying to control outcomes that aren't yours to control. And in that freedom, peace begins to grow. You realize you don't have to fight every battle alone. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to carry the burdens that were never meant for you. God carries them, and when He carries them, you are lighter, stronger, and more alive than ever before. But surrender fully is a daily choice. Life will tempt you to grab the string again, to take control, to doubt, to fear. Every morning, every decision, every challenge is an opportunity to choose surrender over self-reliance. And every time you choose it, you grow in faith, in trust, and in intimacy with God. Here's the ultimate truth. When you surrender fully, you are not giving up on life. You are giving your life to the one who protects it, provides for it, and guides it. And when you do, you experience a depth of peace, a clarity of purpose, and a power beyond anything you could achieve on your own. So today, stop holding back. Stop trying to manage life in your own strength. Surrender fully. Give God your life, your heart, your fears, your dreams. Trust Him completely. Let Him lead, let Him protect, and let Him fill your life with purpose. Because when you surrender fully, you discover that God's plan is not just good, it's perfect, and it's exactly what you need